Next to the cathedral, medieval Florence prided with two more famous edifices: the Badia Fiorentina, a Benedictine abbey founded in 978, and opposite to it the Bargello, the oldest public building in Florence, constructed in 1255. In 1294, the city government decided to build a new town hall, the Palazzo dei Priori, just a few steps away, thus constructing the new theatre of civic power, developing the whole square, the Piazza della Signoria. Today the piazza and the palazzo bear few traces of their medieval origin, since in 1530 the Medici returned to Florence as dukes, and from 1537 Cosimo I established an absolutist rule, also occupying and remodeling these ancient civic spaces. It is not by chance that one of the domineering statues on the square by Gian Bologna represents the strong-willed, masculine and iron-fisted Grand Duke Cosimo I. Most of the other statues and decorations also date from the mid-16th century, when a lot of artists, under the leadership of Giorgio Vasari, were busy working on a complete overhaul of the now princely palace, the Palazzo Vecchio. Next to the palazzo, one finds the Loggia dei Lanzi, which originally provided shelter to the city guards, but by the late 15th century it was turned into a showcase for famous artworks. Cosimo was particularly keen on developing this impressive display. In the middle of the square, a modest plaque reminds of the rule and violent ending on the stake of Friar Savonarola, who in 1494 tried to renovate the Florentine Republic, but his experiment turned into a dictatorship in the name of God. Savonarola's greatest achievement was to create a 500-member parliament, which convened in the Palazzo. But before his time, for 60 years, the Medici dominated Florence, and their rule was covert, unofficial, and they were residing in their own lavish palace, which will be shown later. However, after the collapse of the last Florentine Republic, the Medici, especially Cosimo I, wanted to give a totally different character to that precinct of power. Only Michelangelo's David remained in place, although it had been commissioned by the Republican government and continued to symbolize civic courage and heroism. The large hall, the Salone dei Cinquecento, which had been built to accommodate the 500-member parliament of Savonarola, was turned into an apotheosis of the Medici family, and especially of Cosimo. Originally, Michelangelo and Leonardo were asked to decorate the walls with frescoes, but finally Vasari completed the task, showing Cosimo's victory over Siena in 1555. These opposing pictures show the chaotic decision-making during the Republic and Cosimo's single-handed, wise and efficient power management. Cosimo's son Francesco added this study to the Great Hall. Next to the Great Hall, there are the former apartments of Pope Leo X. Cosimo had them redecorated and dedicated to the great 15th century founding father, Cosimo il Vecchio, the next to his grandson, Lorenzo il Magnifico, and the last to Pope Leo. All of these were designed and created by the Vasari workshop. One can see the Medici coat of arms with the balls, palle, everywhere. On the second floor, above the papal apartments, there are the new rooms designed for Cosimo. These are the apartments of the elements, and others named after Greco-Roman gods and goddesses such as Ceres, Calliope, Jupiter, Hercules, etc. The Terrace of Saturn is superbly decorated and allows a magnificent view over the city. On the second floor, in the old wing, there are the apartments and chapel of Eleonora of Toledo, Cosimo's ambitious wife. The Duchess's rooms originally were used as the private quarters of the priors, the chief administrators of the Florentine Republic. Some of their public rooms remain with decorations from the 14th and 15th centuries. However, their chapel was heavily redecorated in the early 16th century during the last Republic. audience hall was originally decorated in the 1470s, during the time of Lorenzo il Magnifico, but Cosimo, who used it for the same purpose, added new frescoes to the walls. The same happened to the Hall of Lilies, where the inlaid doors, the ceiling and some of the frescoes by Domenico Ghirlandaio, showing illustrious men, models of civic virtues, remained, equipped by modifications according to Cosimo's needs. For example, Vasari cut a door into Ghirlandaio's paintings to open a space for the Duke's wardrobe. This is where Donatello's famous Judith and Holofernes was removed from the Loggia dei Lanzi. Cosimo's wardrobe is an ingenious work by Vasari. The front of the cupboards hold 53 maps of the world, while the cabinets treasure the movable possessions of the court. In the middle of the room, a celestial and a terrestrial globe represented the whole cosmos. Thus, this sacred precinct of republican power became a seat of authoritarian rulership. By today, however, it is a public place, entirely open to tourists, and since 1982, a World Heritage Site.